here with Jason Reitman. I got to tell you, this new movie, Men, Women, and Children, went to go see it. You nailed it.
That's kind. I'll go with that.
The movie is about showing how social media, technology, the internet has affected the way parents and children deal with each other and how it's changing their lives minute by minute because the technology keeps changing and there's all these new things that are coming out here. You showed several different stories, which I have seen having teenage nieces and nephews and the way they deal with their parents, and no way near the way that I used to deal with my parents or my parents used to deal with me back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And it's pretty shocking. If you're not really familiar, like everyone thinks they're up on social media, especially people, say my parents' age, but to see how that's the new nuclear family, if you want to put it that way, of how everybody interacts with each other, it's pretty telling, and it's pretty, I think in a way, it's pretty scary with the way the social media is just forcing people in your own family not to deal with each other anymore.
Right. Things are different. I mean, you say all this. That said, my mother, who's 70 years old, just waited 3 hours for the iPhone the other day. So
Jesus.
Yeah.
I can't get my mom. My mom still has a phone from Singular that was switched to Nokia, and now she got mad last year because it's a monochrome screen. They're refusing to support the service at all, so she had to go on eBay to find a phone to get the most minimum plan that AT&T had that they would service.
That's amazing.
And it's $10 a month, and she gets charged 16 cents a text. I was like, just buy a brand new phone, and she just won't do it.
My mom texts me more than any other person I know, and she texts paragraphs, novels. She does something really interesting. If I text my mom a photo, she will text me back a photo, the same photo.
Right.
And it's almost as though she sees the photo as an emoji. Like, the photo is not the photo is an expression of happiness.
Yeah.
So I've sent her a photo, she sent it back to me, then I've sent it to her again, and then she sent it back to me again. The same photo, right away. So you're looking at a text window, and it's the same photo on the left and the right showing up
but
over
no
and over.
dialogue replying to it.
No.
And did you ask her why she was doing this?
No, I kind of enjoy the magic of it. I shouldn't even be talking about it. But I kind of think my mom is on another plane. Like, she understands digital technology better than you or I.
Right.
That a photograph, a video is an expression of happiness, sadness. It's an expression of family. It's the same as a word.
I work on a morning show, so between 5:30 to 11 is, peak hours. I can't really be on the phone and everything like that. And I tell her anything, if it's an emergency, text me. Otherwise, just wait till after 11 a.m. and I'll call you or whatever. And she'll just wake up and hear an interview that we're doing. And she goes, oh, he sounds nice. Or can you give me a copy of the book? And I was like, Mom, I'm busy, but you can't really portray that on the phone.
So when you're doing your morning show, you are watching your texts as they come in?
Well, I have the phone off to the side while I'm on the board. And then, you see the light of the phone. So while you're doing something, you look over and you see Mom, but it doesn't tell you the text. So I'm automatically thinking something's wrong.
Something's wrong.
So I look up there and she said, can you give me a copy of his book? Whoever we were talking to. I was like, and then I'll write her back after 11 o'clock.
I mean, it's funny. I mean, look, on this movie, I was working with these actors, these teenagers who are 15, 20 years younger than me, but they might as well be 100 years younger than me because the world they grew up doesn't even resemble the world that I grew up in. And you talked about, what it's like to parent today. The truth is there are no rules. You and I grew up with rules about how much television you could watch and R-rated movies and taking the car out and all this stuff. And presumably, your parents grew up with similar dilemmas with their own parents.
If not worse.
Yeah. Nobody knows what you're supposed to tell your children about the internet. You certainly can't govern it. For me to pretend that I could know what's going on in my daughter's digital life and that I could govern how often she looks online and what she looks at, if I think I'm pretending I'm lying to myself. So you have the first generation not only of young people who grew up with only the internet, but you have a first generation of parents who have no idea what to do as far as parenting.
Right. I have a cousin who has a teenage daughter, and one time I just saw a photo pop up, and I don't think the girl knew that maybe something was inappropriate in the photo, and I called her mom. I said, you need to go and have this taken down right away because this is going to be a problem. Her mom had no idea. Now her mom knows how to follow it and everything like that.
Right.
But nowhere near the extent of Jennifer Garner's character in your movie, who at first you kind of see, okay, I see what she's getting at. We got to be, a bit more proactive with social media for your kids, but then she turns out to be so obsessed and so crazy that it's actually damaging not only the relationship that she has with her daughter, but the people that her daughter associates with.
Well, yeah, I think it's these. I mean, this is kind of a time-old story. I mean, if Garner had been in Garner's character was in the 1950s music, she'd be the mom who says that rock and roll is the devil.
Right.
But now it's almost as though parents who are too tough on their kids about the internet are really driving their children further and deeper into the internet, into a place that you really don't want your kids going.
Right. And they do it just to get away and escape from their parents.
Well, also just to kind of out of desire and curiosity and the hope of not feeling alone. I think that one of the interesting things about being online is that you can find a community for about anything. So if there's something that's on your mind, if there's something you're curious about, you're going to find someone else out there with the same curiosity who may take you places you didn't want to go.
There was a scene, without giving anything away really, where Jennifer Garner is on her daughter's phone and she's not approving of a relationship that she has with this boy.
Right.
So she pretends to be her and starts texting back and forth with the guy. When I'm watching this, all I could think of was if my dad didn't like a guy my older sister was seeing and he picked up the phone, and he would say, look, she doesn't want to talk to you anymore. She's done with you, whatever, and hanging up the phone. Now it's just taken into a whole new level where they are technologically advanced, but they're way more dramatic than I remember being.
It's a really funny scene to watch with an audience because, the scene is Jen Garner secretly takes her daughter's phone and starts texting to her daughter's boyfriend and breaks them up. It's a horrific scene, and when young people watch it, they gasp at every text message. It's just unthinkable.
Adam Sandler's in this movie. And even though I read some of the notes before seeing the screening, I still was surprised because it just didn't dawn on me that Adam Sandler was in this movie. So I'm watching the opening and I see his name. And then, Adam shows up and just seeing how he acts throughout the whole movie was something I haven't seen him do really since Punch Drunk Love. He tries to, do more of the family stuff now. And once in a while, he throws in a little seriousness into what he does. But to be flat out serious and dramatic was a great call. But what made you think Adam Sandler would fit this role?
I started talking to Sandler a few years ago about doing a movie together, and we had very similar ideas, which was kind of a surprise to me. I thought of him as someone who kind of did more straight comedies, and he and I just jived on a bunch of ideas, and I came to him with this. And look, this is a movie that opens with Sandler attempting to use his own computer to look at pornography, realizing his own computer has too much spam, so he goes into his teenage son's bedroom and uses his son's computer instead. It's a provocative opening.
I will say this, the way Adam looks for porn on his son's computer by going through the history, so there's no real trace that he looked up something new, was genius, because I don't think adults would think to do that. Because I'm sitting there watching, I go, okay, that's a little too clever.
I think he was really just wanting to see what his son was interested in.
Right.
And was surprised to find the things that he found. And, we say early on in the film, Emma Thompson, who narrates the movie, basically says that this is the first generation in which instead of sons finding their father's porn, fathers find their sons' porn.
Right. Gone are the days of when you maybe found an old magazine in the woods when you're walking home, or maybe your brother had a tape.
How do all these magazines get into the woods, by the way?
Well, that's the whole cliche.
It's like, I feel like forests in America are half trees, half porn.
Well, in my high school, you used to find, not like Penthouse or Playboy or anything, but they were the little magazines that would be they were actually for the 900 numbers. So you just flip through and there's like a 4 square on each page with different ads of girls in poses with the numbers. And those are the ones you would find in the woods by the side of the highway, along with fireworks and, cigarettes and things like that.
My first was a Penthouse magazine in Calabasas. Walked down to the magazine stand and put the Penthouse in front of the Mad magazine and had about 5 minutes to just memorize the images in there.
You didn't walk out with it?
No. I needed to burn them into my brain so that I could have access for a few months.
Do you ever get caught renting something?
No.
Like going to the video store?
No?
Yeah, I did once.
Who'd you run into?
No, I didn't run into anybody. I went to the store, got a couple movies, and rented a movie that a friend in high school told me about that they carried there. So I'm like, oh, great. So I rented it. And turns out the people who own this particular video store knew my parents. And yeah, so kind of tipped them off, but they didn't say anything till the next day when I said, hey, I need a ride to the video store to return movies. And I had stuff like, like Terminator 2 and things like that. And then it's like, oh, what else do you have? And I said, no, that's it. And he's like, oh, I thought I saw another one there. No. And then
What's
finally,
that red cassette?
So it wasn't. It was just I know those ones are horrible too, but I was like, oh, there it is. And I had to show him the copy and, and you're busted. And then he gets all mad, but he had to because my mom's there. And then he said, I'm going to take these back. I'm like, okay, fine. He's going to take them back to the video store.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Dean Norris is in this movie as well. You big Breaking Bad fan? Was that cool?
Of course. I got a Breaking Bad thing that's going to blow your mind.
What?
The other day, I decided to watch Little Miss Sunshine. I hadn't seen Little Miss Sunshine since it came out. 2 actors that are in Little Miss Sunshine in bit parts, unrelated characters, Dean Norris and Bryan Cranston are both in Little Miss Sunshine.
I haven't seen that movie since it came out. That is insane.
I choose to believe that Little Miss Sunshine is an alternate universe that sets Breaking Bad in motion.
Doesn't that freak you out when you watch old sitcoms or even old movies and you go, oh my God, it's Leonardo DiCaprio. He's just standing there. He handed something to somebody, had one line, and that was it. And you're like, oh my God, it's all these famous stars in these little bit roles.
Yeah.
It's nice little Easter eggs.
Dean Norris was wonderful. And it's a very tricky role. He plays a guy whose wife has left him. He's alone with his son now. His son was formerly an amazing football player. His son's played by Ansel Elgort from Fault in Our Stars. And his son has gone into the world of online gaming, role-playing games, Guild Wars specifically.
They gave you the permission to do all that?
Yeah, exactly.
Because sometimes you see when they're showing those type of games that are supposed to be like World of Warcraft, they generate their own little demo thing.
Right. So it was very important to me on this movie. If we're going to explore the world of the internet, it has to be a world that we recognize completely. So everything is real. It's Ashley Madison. It's Pornhub. It's Facebook.
Even
it's Twitter.
the teen modeling sites. You hit it right on the nose there too with a lot of those girls. There was a story so long ago about a girl who went under the name Tiffany Teen, and it was that story. She was a high school student, was modeling and whatever, and then when she got out of high school, started going and doing a little bit more risque stuff.
Yeah,
but it wasn't showing up on the internet as far as the dirty stuff. And then all of a sudden, it got hacked, went out. And everybody figured out what high school she went, where she went, and her whole life was ruined, and she just went into obscurity because she couldn't do anything anymore because of her past. So
can you imagine? I mean, that's kind of the question, right? You're supposed to have a period of safety where you can make mistakes that don't count. I mean, that's why, your record gets expunged when you're 18, right? And, it's that line from The Social Network, the internet is written in ink.
Right.
And you don't have time anymore to make those mistakes.
I think about that too sometimes. It's like, man, there's some things that I may have said or done when I was way younger that, now kids are just putting up on YouTube or live chatting and things like that and texting. Today, Snapchat was just hacked. And they found like hundreds of thousands of photos that were supposed to be deleted, and they're sitting in a database somewhere. So now all these people that were doing stuff on Snapchat, there it is. The internet is forever.
And it's legit hacked. Because I heard there was a back and forth on it on whether or not, oh my God.
Yeah, it's not like the celebrity hacking where they went into the cloud. This was into their server and found, hey, you're not delivering what you said. These are supposed to be deleted in 10 seconds, and there's a whole database full of everything.
Right.
Men, Women, and Children. I didn't say it comes out October 17th. You should definitely see it. Adam Sandler, Jennifer Garner, Judy Greer. I talked to at Comic-Con this week.
Isn't she great?
She's fantastic. I was talking to her for Archer and Birdman. And was it Birdman or Tomorrowland? One of the two there. She's got so many projects. I see her everywhere now. And I asked her about the movie as well. And she said it opened her eyes because she has kids too.
Yeah.
But she's like, I thought I was really on top of things. And then while doing this movie, she never stops learning how to deal with what her kids are doing. She said there's always something, just when you think you got it, you don't, because then 4 other social networks come out and you got to figure out how they work as
things
well.
evolve so quickly that I don't think there is a way to keep up. All you can do is try to raise your kid with decent values and enough self-confidence that they don't go looking for it in the wrong place.
Do you have kids?
Yeah, I got a daughter.
Okay. Dealing with your daughter, obviously, I don't think you would go to those extremes like the characters are in this movie here, but do you find yourself that you're finding a tough line where you need to give her her freedom and let her be herself and eventually become an adult?
My daughter's going to be 8, so I'm still in the pre-cell phone years, but she'll demand a phone within 2 to 4 years.
Right.
And that's when it's going to get really tricky.
You're going to have the tracker on her so when she's riding her bike?
No, I'm not. I don't believe in that. I don't buy that. I don't think that helps, frankly. It's frankly right now, I have the next 2 to 4 years pre-cell phone to have all the important conversations and try to prep her for a world that is written in ink, for a world in which she can be talking to strangers, where everything is accessible. Here's the best thing I've actually heard so far came from Ansel Elgort, the actor. He said to me, look, your generation grew up without the internet. You suddenly had access to everything. When you suddenly have access to everything, you want to go see everything. He goes, but my generation, we grew up with access to everything. And when you always had access,
it's not special anymore.
You don't feel that urge to go actually look at everything.
Do you find that kids are, in a way, dumber by having access to everything because they don't learn how to spell? They just go spell check. They don't know how to look things up and remember it. They just go to Wikipedia. There it is. Here's your answer. They don't retain anything.
No, I find the coming generation to be very sophisticated. I think that they have access to more news. They're hearing about more things. They're getting more points of view, frankly. I think the further you go back, older and older generations, you have people who generally grow up in a town with one point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not until much later that they hear other sides of the story. You now have these young generations that are getting many points of view, who are being forced to be critical thinkers younger. Even in my own industry, I find that young filmmakers are already much more interesting storytellers because of the things they've seen, the things they've read, and the way they've had to communicate with all sorts of different people.
Men, women, and children. I'm talking with Jason Reitman here. At Jason Reitman, you have a Twitter, so that's good.
Thanks.
You'd be a bit of a
hypocrite if I
I was gonna say you'd be a bit of a hypocrite
Twitter.
if you're preaching about social media and you haven't even dabbled on it. But
no,
I see you're on there. In fact,
on
I think you need more than 140,000 people following you.
That's a low number?
That's a low for a man of your status. Yes.
Wow.
Last question before you go. Your father, Ivan Reitman, had an extensive body of work. Do you have anything particular that's your favorite?
Oh, of his films? It's a really hard call. I'll say this. I just showed Ghostbusters to my daughter.
Right.
Which was an incredible experience. I can't tell you what it's like to have been on that set at 7 years old and now to show my 7-year-old that movie and to immediately put her on the phone with my 67-year-old father, her grandfather,
right,
and watch them have this conversation about Ghostbusters. Think about this for a second. Ghostbusters came out 23 years out before she was born. Can you think of a film that came out 23 years before you were born that by the age of 7, all of your classmates had watched?
No. Can't think.
It's insane, right?
I love Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters 3, any thoughts?
I think it's incredible. I think, look, the Ghostbusters at this point is more than a movie. I think it's a universe, and I'm excited to see what Paul Feig does, but I'm excited to see what other filmmakers would do in the future with a Ghostbusters universe.
Jason Reitman, Men, Women, and Children, out October 17th. Go see it. It's a great movie. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.